start. Om Namah Shivaya.
Wow, I can feel that.
So this is our first time trying to get some interesting information to people, what we're doing.
Yeah, because we have these conversations all the time, right? These little snippets of what are you doing? Why did you design that? And then sometimes we realize we haven't asked each other the most important questions, like why did Mom design this temple? What is the origin of that anyway? Can you share that?
Yeah, my name is Olga. My spiritual name is Mandodari. It was given to me by my guru from India, South India, Tamil Nadu, Dr. Ganapati Stapati. And this beautiful young woman is my daughter. Her name is Julia. So I spent 18 years studying ancient architecture and design called Vastu Shastra. Vastu is energy, Shastra teachings, Sanskrit terms. By the way, I brought this from India last time when I was there. So I studied this healing designs because I wanted to bring something peaceful in people's houses and homes. And that's what brought me to India in 2005, right after tsunami. So after that, I traveled to India 11 to 12 times, and I would visit my guru till he passed away in 2011. And I went after that leading my own tours. And so I design houses, do architectural consulting according to Vastu Shastra, and I do interior design as well. So when I was there and communicating with my traditional architect, Ganapati Stapati, he would teach us rules, how to design a house with specific formulas. There are like several formulas. We calculate energy of the person or family members, and we connect that with dimensions of the house. And house in its own way will be connected with universal consciousness, space, and its own frequency of vibration, which is described in ancient Upanishads and Vedic books. So by doing all that, I realized that not everybody can build a house and use these incredible teachings for their own benefits. I decided that I have to do something special, more affordable and accessible to people. And that's how this structure came. It's called Vimana. So I called it Vimana, and Julia calls it a meditation hut. And I said,
You told me not to say that.
I said, no, better not to say hut. What is hut? Let's call it structure.
But it's built according to sacred geometry, and I think that's the piece. I bought the very first prototype of this a long time ago, and so it's been there without me fully understanding, I guess, the science and math behind it. I just felt, obviously it's a beautiful structure. It's a purposeful structure because it creates a space for meditation, right? When you see it, you think, oh, I haven't sat in there all day. I want to go and do what I set out to do, which is meditate at least 15 minutes every morning and every night. But I think I'm a regressive hypnotist, and in my work, I'm looking for force multipliers, things that can help people go a little bit deeper, that little nudge that actually opens up a whole new doorway in these types of states. So whether it's meditation or it's hypnosis, we're all learning to tap altered states, right? And when you and I were talking recently, it hit me like a lightning bolt. This structure that I've been sitting in for years, looking at for years, it has a lot more to it. And as I unfold, not just professionally, but metaphysically and spiritually, I'm seeing new sides to this structure. I'm experiencing new things in this structure when I understand what it is capable of doing. Can you talk about that point about it being a force multiplier for spiritual work? Because now I'm feeling it, it's happening to me. And I thought, why did it take me this long to connect those dots? But I guess everything happens when you're ready for it. So how and why does it function as a force multiplier, not just a beautiful structure?
So it's interesting how you said force multiplier. First, what is force and what is multiplier here? So force, basically, in order to kind of penetrate these teachings, I had to study Vedanta at Shivananda Vedanta Yoga Centers, and I'm very thankful to them because they taught me a lot. And by the way, I even received the yoga teacher certificate, and that's where I studied more about basically basics of Vedanta. So when we think, that helped me Vastu Shastra to understand, when we think, we emit energy, so life energy. So thought is a force, and that's what Julie is saying, it's a force multiplier. That's why when people sit down together, most yogis say yes, meditation is much stronger because we are focusing on the same, on goodness. We are maybe having a specific point for meditation. So when together people do the same, it kind of resonates. Their energy are in resonance. So this structure is calculated. It has a specific dimensions, height, width, and depth. And these dimensions are according to Vastu Shastra, according to the teachings. So what is in this structure? So it looks simple. It's kind of like a cube and pyramidal top, and it has this beautiful cover. You can zip up and you can meditate even if you have mosquitoes around outdoors. Yeah, they cannot get you. So why is it multiplier? The multiplier because dimensions are very important. So why dimensions are important? Because space is considered as a volume of energy. So we as human beings with our human bodies, any objects are residing in a field of energy. So that field of energy has its own inner structure. It was organized after Big Bang, basically. So it organized itself in a grid pattern. And so grid pattern has like a square units of structure of space. So basically with this structure, I plug in this structure in the structure of space itself, invisible structure of space. So it's called Vastu Purusha Mandala. So Vastu is energy, Purusha is soul or living energy, and Mandala is mandala. It is a structure, geometric structure. So we're plugging into the grid of energy of space, of consciousness, universal consciousness, with this structure. So if we don't fit in that structure, then we can't resonate. So that's why this structure is calculated precisely according to special formulas. And it has, of course, its own dimensions because it's a multiplier. So structure has a dimension, right? It's not tiny, small, because according to these teachings, this space is built from tiny, small cubes of energy, which is consciousness. So they're multiplied many times and you receive the big structure. So it's a multiplier of a unit of energy of cosmos, of space. But it has also a specific quality. This structure has also energy of Divine Mother, so feminine energy of creation. And I did it with the purpose to help us because Mother is probably the closest energy, closest being who gives us birth, and that's who holds us in the first moments of our life. So Mother is very important. So motherly energy is very soothing, loving, and peaceful and embracing. That's why I decided to use this energy in this structure. So it has cosmic consciousness multiplier, it has Divine Mother energy here. It's all calculated, it's all in the ancient books, it's not just some randomly picked up. So dimensions are not random. So dimensions are very important. So they are plugged in the cosmic structure with this structure. And the reason it's rotated like this, so we could actually talk to you, could see us through the video cameras, but ideally it's supposed to be shifted that way because that's east, and so the rising sun, the fresh energy is coming on the planet Earth every morning from the sun, plus the universal energy. So it's all together. This structure should be shifted and facing that direction, which is east. And by the way, we picked this house because it's according to cardinal directions. And that is a very important requirement, to be in the grid of energy of the planet, which is cardinal directions. And planet by itself is embedded in the structure of the space. And that's why it's all kind of resonating. That's why it's a multiplier, because it multiplies my energy, my living energy, and my focus of meditation is actually much stronger because I'm getting into the field of a good structure which is resonating with its own inner space, with the big space. That's why it's a multiplier. So it brings you some benefits.
Mm-hmm. So I want to back up a little bit. You had told me, I guess when we were talking a few days ago, that when you design a house for someone, so if somebody says, hey, I want a Vastu house, right? They're building it from scratch. My understanding is that you take the sort of calculations of each person who's going to live in the house and you design according to that. So the house is in resonance with them, they are in resonance with space. But with this structure, you explain something a little bit different. Like it uses kind of a default set of criteria to keep you in resonance. What was that?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so yeah, there is a term nakshatra. Nakshatra is kind of your birth star. So according to South Indian astrology, there are 27 nakshatras or constellations. So if you take a space around planet Earth, divide into 27 sectors like this, that's called nakshatra. It's 13 degrees, 0.3, and so that, and it would basically point to a specific constellation. So there is a kind of a belt around planet Earth, about solar system, and beyond that belt there are constellations. So one constellation, the last one in the sequence, is called Revati. So Revati is considered as a constellation which brings total peace. So when I was studying in India, I was told that if you don't know the birth time to find out this nakshatra or birth star of a person, then we simply use this 27th nakshatra or a constellation which brings peace to everybody because it's final. So the whole circle is basically ended and you're at the final destination, you're living the last maybe incarnation, and so that constellation brings peace to everybody. So then I use that specific frequency, numbers related to that frequency in the calculations of this Vimana. So that's a third component. It's not specifically for me, for my specific energy, it's actually for everybody because it's using this positive energy. So it's positive energy which fits everyone. It's an energy of Divine Mother, and the unit of energy is universal kind of module of space itself from which it's built.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's very interesting.
Yeah.
So I guess I've had a couple of experiences recently in 2024, which just started a few days ago, right? I've had a few experiences in the Vimana recently that for me were radically different than the experiences I've had in it over the last couple of years that I've had one. And so when I go back to that term force multiplier, what I have noticed in my regressive work is that when I work with clients, everyone's physiology receives subtle states and information differently. So one client may experience something very similar to the person who came the previous day, but they have a totally different reaction. They might jump up and say, "Oh my gosh, I shifted energy. I can feel it." And somebody else will say, "I don't know." And with the previous person, maybe I even felt the shift of energy in the room. So I realize we look through a different lens, we process things differently, and that's kind of the beauty of being unique. For me, seeing hundreds of clients, I start to see patterns. I start to see how I receive information, because sometimes when I'm working with someone just using hypnosis, I will feel energy in the room. I have found with these, whether it's Brian Weiss's work or Dolores Cannon's work or any regressive technique, I've been curious, what are we really doing here? And I do believe there's an aspect of creating a multi-dimensional meeting space. I didn't have a shelf for any of this information when I started this work, but I understood that when people come for a session with the intent to heal something from within, healing through understanding, sometimes they talk to spirits. Spirits will enter the room. I didn't know anything about that again, but I started to occasionally feel it. I could feel that in the corners of the room, there would be a shift in energy, or I would see the outline of something, or I would feel it pass through me, or I would feel it moving through the room. I thought, how can it be? It's so cool. As my work has progressed, I feel like my clients make me a more fine-tuned instrument. They're helping sharpen my discernment with what's happening kind of what I'm picking up on. But it's also interesting, they're expanding my field of belief. Because when I see somebody make a shift that I wouldn't even think to ask for, right? I would never wish for that because I didn't even know it's a shift we could make from within. When I see people spontaneously doing that, I think, wow, I mean, these subtle states, what you can achieve in them is truly limitless. And so with that headspace, I went into the Vimana, and I occasionally do self-regressions, right? I know all these scripts and techniques, and I'm always curious, how do these things connect and intertwine? And can I get some of the things that have happened to me when I've had sessions done for me, especially recently, because I think these things grow and grow and grow, and they just get bigger and bigger and bigger. They blew me away, right? So for my current state of being, I've been completely enchanted, amazed, like bewildered sometimes, like beings coming through and sharing very loving information for me, for the person, the practitioner, for humanity. And at this point, I expect that. If it doesn't happen, I think it's kind of weird. I'm like, what's happening in this session? So long story short, I sat in the Vimana a few days ago, and I just sat in self-regression. And obviously I know all these scripts. So I just read a simple script to myself with eyes closed. And I feel like you open some kind of dimensional space, right? You're connecting to other dimensional realities. I have no other way to explain that. And so for the first time, I felt that it was just me and no practitioner working with me. There's something about the interplay of two people focused on your healing. It shifts things in a more dramatic way. And there's always this block of doubt. Well, if it's just me, how do I know if I'm making it up or not? What if it's an ego projection? But this was a very clear experience, and it mirrored and echoed experiences I had just had when somebody gave me a session. And I just thought, how is this possible that we're reaching these beings and their messages are coming through? You must become like a channel for some of this information, because you can ask questions and receive new information as an answer. And that's when your mind says, okay, I'm stepping aside, because I'm not creating this, I'm truly receiving. So to me, all that to say, when I did that in the Vimana by myself, I zipped it up, and I went in that state, and I asked the questions. I set the intent to get information and help and healing and whatever is conducive to my life moving forward in the best way. And there were beings there just waiting. Right?
So you felt beings in the Vimana?
I could receive information from them. I didn't feel like they were in the space with me. I didn't see them. I didn't necessarily feel like a touch. Sometimes I'll feel like a wind, or I'll literally feel like one time I felt somebody touch my hair in a specific way.
But how did Vimana help you?
I felt Vimana was the force multiplier. It was the first time I felt like it was, like you were saying, if you sit with a group of 10 people and you meditate versus you sit by yourself, there's a different sensation. When I have a practitioner give me a session, it feels different than when I try to do it alone for myself. It feels much weaker when I do it alone. Maybe it's my field of belief is not big enough for that. But when I did it in here recently, I felt something different. And I felt I had a clear connection working alone. So I feel like it helped me open something up, or I don't know, I'm just curious what your reaction is.
So, well, I think what is happening here, because this space is special by its own dimensions, and especially when you zip it up, it's your own space, even though it has its holes, but still it's your space. So this is definitely a special structure, and it brings for people different experiences. And I know from my experience that first when I sat down, I didn't even put the cover yet, but I already felt my head was kind of like pulled up a little bit. And I remember you told me the same when I started just only putting this together years ago. So I remember very well when I was in California at Shivananda Yoga Farm
in Grass Valley.
I had the workshop, and we had a group of people. It was young man with his parents, and he was not interested. They kind of brought him in, and he was maybe, I don't know, 15 years old or something. Then we had several people from Vietnam. They came to study to be a yogi. So I remember vividly that everybody had its own experience. And even this young man who didn't care much, and he was kind of restless. He wanted to go just to get it over with this, yeah. And so he sat down. He was just curious about what this is. So he zipped up, and we would chant Om. So Om all together.
Had you meditated beforehand, or
we meditated? We had the session, 15 minutes lecture I gave, explanation about what Vimana is. It's a flying chariot, and it's also the structure of the temple. So ancient temples, they would have a structure where deity would sit. It's called Vimana as well. And Vimana is a flying chariot, or like spaceship of ancient people. They have a whole Vastu Shastra, for example, talks about it. But anyway, so this young man sat down, he closed his eyes, and we meditated for chanted for 5 minutes, because we didn't have more time per person. So he opened his eyes, and I said, "What did you see?" He said, "I saw wolf." And he was very interested in Native American culture. And so wolf is a sacred animal for Native Americans. So he was communicating with wolf. Then everybody had its own experience, but everybody had an experience. So, but the most profound, I think, most unusual, which touched me deeply, it was this man from Vietnam. He sat down, zipped up, we started chanting Om, and 5 minutes left. He is not opening his eyes. Even we stopped chanting, he's still sitting. We're like, okay, well, we will give him a little bit of time, and he's not moving. Then we kind of like whispering around that, next person's supposed to come, and he's still sitting, not moving. And then another yogi, she spoke Vietnamese, so she started speaking Vietnamese through the wall of Vimana. So basically, you need to get out. And he's still sitting. And then we're like, okay, we will just wait. What can we do? So then he, maybe another 5 minutes, he kind of was blinking, and he opened his eyes and he had tears. And I was like, what happened? He said, I could not open my eyes because I closed my eyes, and after several minutes of meditation, he said, I saw a very strong light inside. And then he said he had the vision of Shiva, because he was a devotee of Shiva. So he saw this light, and he had a communication with Shiva, and he could not move, he couldn't open his eyes. And so that's why he said, I couldn't do anything, because I was like frozen with this beautiful experience. I thought, oh my God, this is incredible. And I just recently finished the business course, and my business trainer, she said, just share this experience with people. Just tell them simply what is happening. So that's what I think. You have your own experience. Everybody has their own experience. Plus, this experience changes based on your mood for that day, based on your situations, whatever is happening in life. But if you feel like something deeper will happen, definitely. And every time it will be something different. And I think it also depends on what you're focusing on. So this Vimana definitely is a multiplier, energy multiplier. And especially when you have a short time, whenever I would go with Shivananda Ashram, I was in France, near Paris, also years back with this Vimana, in Vienna, in Berlin. So people have experiences. One woman was crying. She said she released a lot of anger, and she was upset, and then it kind of went away. So the sacred space by itself does it to you, and plus whatever is inside. That's what happens. So this Vimana is a very special structure, and I just hope people will benefit from it. So it is in our bedroom, and I meditate here, and as I said, it faces east. So the best is to meditate in the morning, and before you go to sleep, when everything is kind of quiet around, and you just sit in this space, and you can burn a candle. And just enjoy it. So that's
it's a peace amplifier.
That's true. That's a good point.
I love that you shared about Shiva, because last year I went to the Brian Weiss professional past life regression seminar. He's been doing that for a really long time, so it's nothing new. It was new to me because it was profound. And I kind of got on this path more recently, but he gave some demonstrations on stage, and he would ask people kind of like, raise your hand if you haven't had an experience yet, because we were all there. I think it was 180 people from something like 23 countries and 30 something states, only 180 seats. So we felt lucky that we were the first group after COVID that got to be there with him. And actually, we weren't sure if he would come back after that. So he did come back. One of the people he called up on stage went very easily into trance, and immediately they went to their childhood from this lifetime. And Brian Weiss, I just feel like his energy is so, there's just a kindness there. You can even do a shock induction in the most gentle, kind way, and he showed me that.
He wrote this book,
Many Lives, Many Masters.
And when you went to college, I gave you this book.
You put that book in my hands, and it shifted something in me. But there was also an experience on stage where this person said, I haven't had any experiences like the other people are describing. Maybe it's, I'm somehow different. And then this person went back to childhood, and then they were able to, some people I think saw Shiva on the stage behind the person, because you start activating different gifts when you go down this path. It happened to me too.
You open up.
It's so cool. It's remarkable, but you have direct experiences. So there is something about sharing these stories that also gives us permission to believe. 10 years ago, I would have thought, that's unbelievable.
From firsthand.
Yeah, I would think I believe that someone else had that experience, but it'll never happen to me, because they must be some super ascended master or something, and that's not me. And I realized, no, I have the experiences. Everyone who comes to me has experiences. And it's almost like as we share these stories, even if you just put a little bit out, just a little piece of your story, there's something, it's like a ripple going out where you suddenly give other people permission to share whatever they're experiencing. And then you see, wait, this is kind of a universal experience. Like, we all have these abilities. And in addition to Shiva, there was something during that seminar. There was a woman, early 30s, or I think maybe late 20s, but she said, are we going to go there? Are we going to talk about the beings? And I thought, yes, finally.
So I think beings are coming in Vimana.
I think so too.
I think they're coming.
I think I know that with regressive work, we're opening a portal, like a white light portal, for information to come through. But some people see the beings. And I have people tell me, they said, I went to Dr. Joe Dispenza retreat. How come nobody was talking about the giant beings that appeared? Did other people not see them? So I realized these experiences are happening anywhere we come with a sacred intent to help and to heal. Some people see visually, some people feel it, some people get a sensation. It doesn't, these are subtle things at first, but as you allow yourself to experience them and say, hey, there is something happening here, you put your focus on it and it amplifies it. You get more and more. And so anyway, I just felt like sitting in here with now an evolved intent and belief that, yeah, I'm a spark of the divine just like everyone else. Everyone is a spark of consciousness. Everything has consciousness, because everything has consciousness. Yeah. So I realized there is something about this structure.
It's all vibration. But what I learned in India, it's not only vibration of sound, which most Hindu scholars, they would say sound is first. But what I learned in India, in South India, the sound is second, first is light. So that's why basically in the top of the Vimana there is a square opening for divine light to come through, and you can put a crystal. Okay. I have crystals there in the window, so based on your inner kind of inclination, wherever you feel like it, you can find the crystal, you can put it in the center of the top of the Vimana, and it will amplify in specific quality. So maybe peace, maybe you need to be energized if you're a little bit depressed or sad or something, or peace or happiness, like a pink quartz. So things like that. So I even have this tapestries from India. This is Vishnu. I just feel like, I had Ganesha behind me, but I gave him as a gift to somebody. So yeah, so 444. So I think we will continue our talks. Yeah, we want to bring to this knowledge to more people. Our experiences, they're simple, but they're profound. So we just wanted to thank you all, guys.
Thank you.
Julia. Om Shanti. Om Shanti.
Oh, I can feel that.